In Chapter 8, we will examine some sensory mechanisms. Before going into that, we need to see a few concepts. The first one is the stimulus. The stimulus is what causes the sensory input. And once we receive the sensory input, this would lead to some changes within or outside the body, like heat, pressure, sound waves, lights, chemicals. All of these we consider them as a stimulus. And the stimulus is detected by receptors. These receptors will convert the energy from these stimuli into action potentials. So these receptors are going to induce action potentials and send the information toward the central nervous system. And we have different types of receptors: mechanoreceptors, thermoreceptors, pain receptors, chemoreceptors, or photoreceptors. Each one of these types of receptors deals with a certain type of stimuli. For example, mechanoreceptors deals with mechanical energy, like something touching you. Thermoreceptors dealing with heat or cold, thermo, temperature. Pain, as you can guess, deals with pain. So any tissue damage or excessive heat or pressure would result in pain. It will activate these receptors. Chemoreceptors deals with chemicals, like in our tongue or in our nose. And the photoreceptors, they respond to light. So these are the types of receptors classified according to the stimulus. This table summarizes them, summarize the types of receptors, gives several forms of them, several examples, and several sensations. Now, within our body, we have several receptors thrown out in different parts of our body. These will detect touch, pressure, vibration, pain, body position, and movement. And as we said, they will send the impulses to the primary somatosensory area of the parietal lobe of the cerebral cortex. And this area is responsible for processing the information, and it will send its primary motor area and analyze the information and send it to the primary motor area in the frontal lobe. And this area in the frontal lobe is responsible for sending out the orders or the decisions. Now, for example, in our skin, it contains a variety of sensory receptors. For example, it has the encapsulated dendritic endings. These are free endings. They are, for example, for for temperature. Also, they are for light touch. They are also pain receptors. Also, there are receptors responsible for sensing the changing of hair positions. So all of these are encapsulated. And the other part, we have the capsulated nerve endings, modified and encapsulated nerve endings. Like, for example, the mesenteric corpuscle. This is for light touch. For example, if there is insects walking on your skin, it will be detected by this mesenteric corpuscle and the merkel discs, also for light touch. Then there are the Raffini endings. These are for pressure. And then there are the Bassinian corpuscles. These are for deep touch and high frequency vibration. Now, again, the difference is that the nerve end, it has a capsule surrounding it. So these are the encapsulated. Whereas here, these are free nerve endings. There is no capsule surrounding them. Now, let's see we are going actually in this chapter, we are going to see just two main sensory receptors. We are going to examine the ear and we are going to examine the eye. So let's start with the ear. The ear has three parts. There is outer, middle, and inner ear. And the outer ear, its main function is to collect the sound waves and channel them. So it has the pinna. This is the outer visible portion of the ear. So this is the pinna. Okay. Then there is this, the auditory canal. So the sound waves are collected by the pinna and funneled, and the pinna would funnel them through the auditory canal. Okay. And these sound waves will hit the tympanic membrane. The sound waves will hit the tympanic membrane. The tympanic membrane, technically it separates the outer ear from the middle ear. So it is like in kind of in between. It does not technically belong to the outer ear. It does not belong to the inner ear. It's just a separation between the outer ear and the inner ear. Now, its importance is that it vibrates in response to the sound waves. And from there, these vibrations would be transmitted into the middle ear. So remember, here we have air vibration, sound vibration. The tympanic membrane will convert them into mechanical vibration. These mechanical vibrations will go to the bones, to three little bones. We have the malleus. This is the first one. Actually, I will clean the drawings. So the first one is the malleus. It's connected to the incus, and the incus is connected to the stapes. So these are three little bones receiving the vibrations from the tympanic membrane. And what happens when the tympanic membrane vibrates? The malleus will vibrate, the incus will vibrate, and the stapes will vibrate. This happens every time you hear a sound, including now. Another part of the middle ear is the auditory tube. The auditory tube actually connects the middle ear to the throat. This is when you are, for example, in the airplane and you swallow, so you'll get the air pump, not the air pump, the ear pump, to adjust the pressure. So this is the function of the auditory tube. It will adjust the pressure in the middle ear. So both air pressures around the, or on both sides of the tympanic membranes, on the tympanic membrane are equal. So this is the function of the auditory tube. Then we have the inner ear. And the inner ear is the most complex part of the ear because it has several structures. Now, for the outer and middle ear, their main function is hearing. Both are helping in hearing. Inner ear actually has two functions. One of them is hearing, and the second one is balance. Our ability to stand without falling, our ability to understand the directions where is up and down is coming from the inner ear. So what do we have with the inner ear? Actually, we will focus only on the hearing part of the inner ear. And the hearing part, or maybe we will talk about semicircular canals, I'm not sure. Anyway, so the hearing part is happening within the cochlea. Here, the cochlea is converting these vibrations to action potentials. So remember, the vibrations arrive to here. Inside there is a fluid. The fluid will start to vibrate, and it will go through the cochlea. The cochlea will convert these fluid vibrations into action potential and sending them through the cochlear nerve to the brain. And that's how we are hearing. So for the For the cochlea, actually, as you can see, it's like a snail. And if we like uncoil it, it will be like a long tube. Long tube, it has an inner canal. Actually, I will draw it here. So this is the cochlea. As we said, this is like spiral organ. It's like a snail. So if we extend it, it will be dead end from this side. Within this cochlea, there is an inner tunnel. Now, this tunnel is filled with the fluid, and this area also is filled with the fluid, although different types of fluid. Vibrations are coming from the oval window through the ossicles, and the vibration would run here would be the semicircular canal and so on. The vibration, the sound vibration, would cause vibration in this fluid. So this fluid would, we will have like a wave generated within this fluid, and because of the very thin membrane of this inner chamber, once this fluid is vibrating, the inner fluid would vibrate. Now, within this inner part, there is a special organ called organ of Corti. This organ is responsible for our ability to hear. So we are hearing through this organ. And we will see that in a bit on the other image. But these spaces, they have different names. Actually, I will go back to here. This will help you to see how the vibrations, not this one, this one. This will help you to see how the vibrations coming from the on the tympanic membrane through the ossicles will hit the oval window, and that would generate vibration within the cochlea. So the upper chamber, we will call it the vestibular canal. The inner chamber we'll call it the cochlear duct. Here the organ of Corti is located, and the lower chamber we will call it the tympanic canal. Now the organ of Corti, basically it's hair cells that they are having or protected, not really protected, they are laying against the tectorial membrane. So when the wave is there, it will cause these cells to raise up, and the hair will actually bend against the tectorial membrane. So the tectorial membrane will be here, So when the vibration is happening, the hair would be pushed against the tectorial membrane, and this will cause action potential in these cells. This action potential will be transmitted through the axons to the brain, and that's how we are going to hear the sound. In the inner ear also we have the vestibular apparatus. These are the three semicircular canals and the vestibuli. They also contain hair cells, but their function is not in hearing. Their functioning is sensing the rotational movement. So these are responsible for our ability to sense that we are moving. And this is, again, the same concept. Because of the movement of the fluid in the semicircular canals, it will bend the hair cells, so we will understand that we are moving. This table summarizes the regions of the ear, their functions, and the associated structures with them. This video would summarize what we talked about. I will pause, I will stop here, and when we come back, we will start talking about the eye.